Hi there. Today we are talking about my new favorite build in the game, and I just want to say, if doing big damage, if carrying your teammates, if getting big honors is for you, then this video is not for you. This video is called Sacrifice, because this build will do everything for your team. You will be extremely weak alone. You cannot do a lot of things by yourself. So as we go over this build, please keep in mind this is not supposed to do damage, because you do extremely low damage. But in turn you receive a build that provides so much utility to your team that I genuinely think is really fun to play, and just really it's good to play in a team. And I hope that even though this build is not gonna be meta or, like popular because people do not want to play like this because they want to do big damage, but I hope that you stick through the video regardless, and I hope that you enjoy what I'm about to show you. So last time on Keglia's first video, right, where I showed off my build, I structured things very differently. I went a lot over like combos and the applications and a lot of this stuff. This build video will be very different. Instead of doing that, this will be more about explaining the theory behind it and then showcasing you through clips how these things work and why they're good, and hopefully they maybe impress you. So I'm not really going to go over combos. The only combo you really need to know, it's a really simple one, and this will be important. So I'm gonna go very briefly over it, because we need to understand arts level, because arts level is the most important part. So if you don't know, Cheetah, she has an arts level, as you can see in the bottom right corner, arts 1. And when you finish a attack, a combo, then your arts level will rise by 1. So, but this only works if you hit with the last hit. So if I hit into nothing here, you see my arts level does not rise. But now if I attack the dummy and I hit the dummy with my last hit, here you see arts 2, it says. So after you use a skill, your arts level will start to slowly fade away. And depending on how much mastery points you have invested into Cheetah, this will go away really quickly. So to show you, we are only gonna need one combo, and that is like the most important thing, because it immediately gets you out up to level 4, which is the maximum. So we do the basic square combo into a triangle combo finisher into a charged triangle attack. As you can see, arts level always increases at the end of every step, so you have to land the last hit of these. You can whiff everything before. As long as you land these important last hits, you will increase your arts level. And this is all you need in terms of like how to fight, how to combo, because this is not about damage, this is not about looking cool. This is about you making the life easy for your team. It's sacrifice. So since we do not need any more of this here, we can just go out. And now we can talk. So first up, we're going over the skills. Because the reason why this is so important is because Cheetah has very specific setups that enable us to do what we want to do here. And I don't believe any other character has the possibility to do this. So this is a Cheetah exclusive build, and everything centers around substitute. If you don't know what substitute does, you cover your allies. And what that does is, when they take damage, they redirect the damage they take towards you. In addition to that, they basically gain stout heart. That means they have super armor. They will not get flinched when they are attacked. So they basically, it acts like as if they're immune, but instead of being immune, they redirect their damage towards you. There's one thing One difference with invincibility and immunity and substitute, certain things will still apply to you. Like if you cover an ally, they can still get afflicted by certain debuffs like burn or blight. So keep that in mind. But there's a very important combo I will go over later that basically emulates full party-wide invincibility. So as I said, everything centers around this core ability here, substitute. This is the most important thing. If you mismanage this, you failed your team. If you play this build and you complain about your teammates dying, that was probably because you played poorly and not because they played poorly. Because it is your role with this build to make everyone safe. And that takes a lot of skill actually, because you cannot just spam your abilities. You have to actively think. You have to plan out the fight. You have to know your teammates. You have to understand what kind of mechanics do they struggle with. What parts of the fight do they tend to like get hit a lot, or maybe they're about to get hit by something they might not get hit, but you need to have the awareness to maybe react in time. And there's some really cool things you can do. Like there were things where I literally like substituted like the right moment and I saved 3 people from death, and I didn't die myself because I had auto revive. And basically instead of like turning it into an entire team wipe, basically nothing happened. And there will be clips like that. As I said, I will show them later to demonstrate these things. So as I said, you do really low damage and the safety of your team is in your hands. And if they die a lot while you play this build, you play incorrectly, so take responsibility. The other skills, there are 3 core skills that you need: Phalanx, Miserable Mist, and Substitute. The 4th skill, this one here is interchangeable. You can use whatever you want. This is not necessary. I've been experimenting with a lot of different things. I've tried out Revive, I've tried out Veil, I've tried out Conduction, I've tried out Overdrive Search, I've tried out Rain of Arrows, I've tried out Decimate. I mean, Decimate is a damage skill. I just personally like the skill because it looks cool and it can help a little bit with like burst windows if you really need it. There's a lot of options here. As you can see right now, I'm running Stall. It's a slow. Slow is a pretty good CC ability, right? It's situationally good, not in every fight, and that actually comes from a lot of cheater spells. So a lot of these spells you might only want to use in certain fights. Can be a bit annoying because I tend to be lazy. I do not want to constantly change around my skills, right? It's really, really annoying to do, especially because if you play like with a group that like constantly switches like what they're farming and not like farming the same thing, it can be annoying to have to switch your skill for every fight. But I like to run Stall. I think Revive can be good. I think Veil can be good in certain fights, just because it gives like debuff immunity to the entire party, like Black and White Worm, right? That can be really useful. You don't have to do the slows, paralyze, stuff like that. But here, as I said, you can pick whatever you want for the 4th slot, but these 3 you need. And I will go over why. So, Miserable Mist decreases attack and defense of the enemy. So, you might think, why not just use Rain of Arrows? Rain of Arrows also decreases attack, right? Like, let's see here. It's the same attack decrease, right? Why do we use this? So first of all, the defense decrease, it can help maybe not your team, because maybe your team is already geared, but it will help you. Because your damage is so low, you're actually not hitting the damage cap that you have most of the time. So this is acting as both a defensive skill for reducing the enemy's damage towards your team and you. At the same time, it also increases your damage, and while damage is not our goal, we still want to be able to contribute to our team, right, in like burst phases. So that is really good, and you can get a pretty good uptime on this. Phalanx, really good skill. So there can be very, very many uses for Phalanx, because you can use Phalanx in conjunction with Substitute. You can use Phalanx in downtimes where you might not have Substitute, or maybe you don't have like enough arts level. because unless you run, unless you have level 4 arts, substitute lasts really, really short. So you need it at level 4 to be able to really use it. Anything below 3 is practically unusable because it expires so quickly. And Phalanx might be something where you can basically cover up either the times where your substitute is like on cooldown, but you need like damage reduction for your team, or just to make things safer. This is an AoE, right? So this applies to people near you. And if you coordinate this and people are near you, you can give them like 70% damage cut, right? That is absolutely insane. Like people practically cannot get one shot, like unless in very specific situations, right? So this is another very strong defensive tool. It has a ton of uses. It's really difficult to go over all this without like actively showing you or like, you know, showing all these different scenarios. And depending on the fight, the way you have to rotate your skills might differ. Like in certain fights, you might want to pop Substitute and Phalanx together, but in certain fights where you know that you cannot build up art so well, or you cannot hit the enemy enough to get a quick cooldown refresh for Substitute, you might have to space out your Phalanx to help your team in like downtimes where you cannot have a Substitute, but you know, you will have to encounter mechanics. This is basically like the basic idea, and everything will center around the Substitute. This is the most important skill, and you need to learn to use this properly. And now that we're done talking about skills, we will go over the build, the Sigils, the weapon. So as you can see here, I am not running the Terminus weapon. We are not a damage dealer. We cannot get benefit from Catastrophe because, as you can see, I have 99,999 HP. This is the health cap. You cannot get more health. You need a high health pool because when you take damage from 3 people simultaneously, they will kill you. And if you do not like the feeling that someone else might kill you because they played like poorly, and you also play poorly because maybe you could have prevented that by getting invincibility through perfect dodges, which is what the build centers around, by the way, then this build is not for you. As I said, sacrifice. I mean it. Like, people can screw you over, people can kill you, and to play this build, you need to have a certain mindset. So I am running Ascension weapon, really pretty by the way, I love the pink glow. I run Ascension weapon because it gives HP and attack, which is pretty good for us because we have a really low attack, and helping a little bit with that, and also not having to use a health sigil really helps out. Like, as you can see, I don't have a single health flat health sigil, so that's really nice. And obviously we only really have 2 endgame weapons, right? That is Ascension and it is Terminus, right? So usually when I play a support, a tank build, I will go Defender because it gives more HP and Garrison, right? But in this case, we cannot go this because we really seriously, we need the additional attack to be able to do any sort of meaningful damage. As I progressed through this build and leveled it up, I played this build before I had like this weapon, when I still used the Defender weapon, and the damage was so abysmal that like seriously you did like between 5 to 9k damage with like a basic attack, and everyone else, you know, like does like 5 to 10 times the damage that you do with one attack, right? So you need this. And also when you fully Ascension, you get really good effects here. The damage cap, it's gonna help out a little bit. Like, as I said, we cannot hit our damage cap very well, but especially during things like Link Time, we can hit damage cap because Link Time actually boosts your critical hit rate, your attack, all the stuff, right, during Link Time. And that actually means we can, during Link Time, actually do respectable damage. It's not a lot of damage, but we can do respectable damage. So the little damage cap 5 is nice for that. Sigil Booster is nice if you're like leveling up everything so you don't have to max everything, because a lot of these effects kick in at 15, but it's still nice to have, right? And you just get it for free anyway. Okay, so let's go over the Sigils. Let's start with Regen. As you know, I have 100,000 HP. I'm just going to say that for the purpose of it being easier to say. Regen, you have a lot of HP, you get a lot of HP. So I regen 2500 HP with every tick. That's like every 3 seconds-ish. Really nice to have. We have Guts. We do not care what level Guts is. We just wanted to have it at all because Guts can definitely save you. So as you can see here, I have Guts from my right stone, level 7. I do not care much about the cooldown reduction, so level 7 is nice enough. Usually you're not going to die a lot with this build unless you play really poorly. It's just a little extra backup. So Guts and Auto Revive, those are skills, right, that you just need a little investment to have like a really big impact on your gameplay. Then we have Stamina. You know, Stamina is basically the only real offensive thing I run because it will kind of help us reach more towards our normal damage cap, because as I said, the damage of this build is extremely small, and we do have a little bit of free slots for getting something else that is not like purely defense or utility. Stamina is really nice. You take very little damage, you have a lot of health, so it's pretty easy to stay at a high health percentage and get a lot of boosts of it. You can see 51% attack is massive, right? Then we have Dodge Payback. So Dodge Payback you only need at level 15 because the reason we use it is invisibility plus 2 seconds. It's also going to give us a little bit more attack, which is good, because we will perfect dodge a lot in this build. Like, perfect dodging is the core mechanic of this build, and this is what enables us to do things nobody else would be able to do. So that's why we take it. We get attack, we get invincibility, really important. We have Aegis. Aegis is just a massive health boost, right? I want to go briefly over the other health sigil that we use, crab investment return. So if you don't know this sigil, you get it from collecting 41 crabs, and this is not additive. So this says here plus 20% HP, right, and plus 80% HP from Aegis. But this is not 100 plus 100% HP, because if you have seen my sigil 1-on-1 video, you know multiplicators of king. And for HP, we only have 3 sigils that boost it. We have flat health, we have Aegis, and we have crab investment returns. So when we combine these, you actually have like the only multiplier you can get for health, and that increases your HP by a lot. Like if you just look here, if I were to take off my crab investment returns, I would lose 15,800 HP. Right? Like that is absolutely massive for like one single sigil. And this also provides us with 10% damage cut, right? So that just means you take 10% less damage all the time. This is actually displayed in the top left corner in your boss, and this will get added to your phalanx. If you use phalanx level 4 phalanx gives 70% damage cut. With this, it will display 80 damage cut. So that means you only take 1/5 of the damage. And what that also means is you will have an incredibly massive effective health. So health is not the same, right? Like defense, it's not really explained in this game a whole lot. But basically what that means, right? If you just take the 10 damage cut, that means I do not really have 100,000 HP. I actually have 110,000 HP. Because I reduce the damage I take from damage cut by 10%, right? So the effective health that I have available before I die is increased. And that is also something a lot of people, I think, underestimate. Like, if you play like a DPS character and you have 40,000 HP, I'm actually not, like, because I have 100,000 HP, I'm actually not like 2.5 times as tanky as you because of my health. I'm actually like 3 times as tanky as you because my health is actually worth more. per point than your HP is per point, if that makes sense. I hope I explained it well enough, because things like this can be kind of complicated for some people. It also took me a while, so please let me know in the comments if things were too complicated and I did not explain it well. Please let me know. So let's keep going over the individual thing after we've talked about our health multipliers. So we have steel nerves. Take less damage while Stout Heart is active. So we take 50% less damage. We combine this with Stout Heart. I'm using the Stout Heart Sigil. That means we have another 15% damage reduction combined with our damage cut from Crab Vestment, right? That means we have about 25% damage reduction. So for damage reduction, it's actually bad to have multiplicators, because the number that you in every step calculate, right? In damage, every number gets higher for every step that you calculate. But in damage reduction, every number gets smaller. So you actually get less value if you have more damage taken multiplied. So we do not reduce our damage taken by 25% with these two combos. We actually reduce it more like by like 23%, because that's how like the math works behind it. Then we have improved guard. So improved guard, if you've watched me for a while, you know I love guarding. It makes your gameplay really consistent. Level 16 gives you a massive boost, as you can see here, of 16, 36%. That's 15 from the Sigil and 1 from my Sigil booster, right? And as you can see here, getting another 14 levels would only increase it by an additional 14%. So as I said before, usually it's really good to use sigils standalone, because one single sigil has a lot more effect on your build than stacking sigils, unless you really need certain effects. We have improved dodge. Improved dodge will make it so you can dodge more times. So we can dodge 7 times in a row before going on dodge animation lockout. And enhanced dodging ability. What does that mean? So enhanced dodging ability means that you get more invulnerability frames during your dodge. So you dodge and the animation stays the same, but during the dodge you will be invulnerable for a longer time. And that actually combos with a sigil here. And that is where everything centers around. Attack power is lowered, but dodges are always perfect dodges. So this actually combos really well with improved dodge, because when you dodge with flight over fight, anytime you dodge an attack that would have given you damage, no matter where you are in the dodge animation, as long as it was during a part where you have iframes, the invulnerability frames or invincibility frames, it will turn your dodge into a perfect dodge. So that means this actually makes it so we can get perfect dodges even easier, despite already getting always perfect dodges with like dodges as long as we dodge an attack. I'm sorry, I know I'm saying dodge a lot, but it's really important that you understand this. So this gives you basically in your dodge more time to proc the perfect dodge effect. I hope that makes sense. We are running nimble defense. It gives us more invincibility during dodge, and it gives us defense, and it recovers a good amount of our HP. 7.2% max HP, right? That is a lot for us because we have 100,000 HP. So every time you perfect dodge, you get a really good amount of self healing. One thing to note here is we are running this effect here, invincibility plus 2 seconds, and dodge perfect invincibility plus 2 seconds. This caps out at 3 seconds. There are multiple sigils that can boost this effect. You can technically get up to 9 seconds of invincibility if you combine all 3 sigils and max them out, but they do not stack to 9 seconds. 3 seconds invincibility increase is the max. So the basic invincibility time after perfect dodge is 3 seconds, and you can get it up to 6 seconds with sigils. No matter how many you use of them, it cannot go above plus 3 seconds. So 6 seconds is our maximum we can have for invincibility. Please keep that in mind. Then we have Cascade. Cascade, very important. This is our way to reduce our cooldowns. We want to hit as much as we can. This will actually synergize really well with something I will show later in the Sigils. Just really good. We need uptime on our abilities. Cascade enables us more uptime on our abilities, that's why we take it. Nimble Onslaught, another perfect dodge skill. We take this, as I said, not for the invincibility. We take this because of the cooldown reduction and SBA gain. Every time you perfect dodge, you refresh 3.3% of your cooldowns, so that is really strong. As I said, cooldown, really important for this build. We need the cooldowns. Potion Hoarder. We are playing a support. We need a lot of healing. Not can we only just heal other people with blue potions, which is really nice. So that's another way. Like this kind of doubles down into a off healer as well, where you can support your teams with like blue potions. But what we also want is like the mega potions. Mega potions fully heal you. We have 100,000 HP. That means you can spam mega potions and heal yourself like 100,000 HP every second, basically. So you can survive ridiculous amounts of damage as long as you potion in time. That's why we run a potion hoarder. Revival potions are not that important to us because we will never really die all too much, if you're being honest. Auto revive, I already mentioned it earlier. Auto revive will we don't need it at a high level. It's just good to have. It gives us a little bit safety. It can give you opportunities to, when, as I said before, an example where your entire team might get wiped and you know you will die if you take the damage for them, but you might pop substitute because you know I have auto revive up. I can just take the hit for them. Nobody will die of them. I will die, but I have auto revive, so it doesn't even count as a death to the game. Really nice. Steady focus. I'm using this for the defense. The Stout Heart doesn't matter because we already run Stout Heart as I showed before. The defense just means we take less damage, right? That only applies to charging attacks. I might change this out if I find a different trait, because this is on another sigil that I'm using, so this is kind of like just a byproduct of having it there by accident. It's not insanely good, but while you're charging up your attack, you take less damage, pretty nice. We have Provoke 16, it only goes up to 20. Provoke 16 is actually really high in terms of impact, like as you can see. If you get like a little bit more of the provoke level, it will not change too much. 40 hostility is plenty enough. I've tanked plenty of fights, in my opinion. It's enough hostility, so we can get away with one single sigil. Crab Best Mid as we talked about before, so I'm gonna skip it here. Stout Heart the same. And now we have the Awakening sigils. This is where everything comes together. First, we have Fearless Drive. Shortens the captain's cooldown whenever reaching a higher arts level. So that means as we go through basic combo, as we reach level 2, our skills will cooldown by 2%, level 3, skills cooldown by 3%, and so on, right? So that means when you do a full combo, you will immediately recover 9% of the cooldown of your skills. It pairs really well with Cascade, and also Nimble Onslaught, right? We have like a lot of ways to reduce our cooldowns, which means we're actually able to have a really high uptime on Substitute, which is what our build centers around. Obviously, the pain here is if you're not able to hit your combo finishers, like the final hits, as I said before, are the important ones, everything will go to shit, because if you cannot get your arts level up, you won't have cooldowns, and your spells will be really weak. So really important, we need our arts level, everything centers around this, and here we have the other effect, Fearless Spirit. As our arts level increases, we get increased stats, so attack and defense higher, right? As I said before, we don't hit our damage cap, so getting a little bit more extra attack really helps us to do a little bit more damage at least, and the defense is nice to have because you take less damage if you get hit. I don't know if that is universally true, but from my testings, I take about half the damage that other people would take for the same hit. So as you can see, my defenses are really strong. And if you put it into perspective, right, I have 100,000 HP, but I take only about half the damage that other people would take. So that means I actually do not have 100,000 HP, I actually have about 200,000 HP. So yeah, you can put it into perspective, right? So this is like the ultimate tank build. Like you are a juggernaut. You are unkillable, basically. And this is the Sigils. This took very long, but this is, as I said, very, very specific. So this is all the Sigil related stuff. And with this being said, now we can start going into some of the gameplay, and I can explain a little bit what is happening. I can show you some examples of how things are like really, really, really strong. So in this clip here from my stream, I'm gonna demonstrate like the basic idea how to use substitute. So what you will see me do here is the enemy is about to enter Bloodthirst, and that's usually when the major mechanics happen, right? And you basically want to try to substitute as late as possible so you don't waste valuable uptime on it, and try to use it like maybe a little bit into the mechanics so you don't like use it too early and then you have like valuable time that you lose later on right in the mechanic potentially. Now you have to be careful with that. Like your teammates might in the first like 1 or 2 seconds where the mechanic starts, they could already get hit or die, so you have to be mindful of that. But you will see when I pop it, I will try to purposefully run through mechanics and try to apply perfect dodges. And the reason for that is while you substitute and you have perfect dodges and the invulnerability from perfect dodges, that essentially makes your entire team immune to damage. So let's watch the clip. Okay, and so this is the entire idea behind the build. So next up, we're going over some clips. I've done these clips that we are gonna watch with Leo K. Rogue, so shoutouts to him. Thank you very much, Leo. Like, without you, I couldn't have done all this, and I really appreciate you. So, in this first clip here, we will see that the damage difference. So here we're taking both a raw hit, so that means we do not use any buffs or anything. We're just trying to see how much damage we take. And if you watch this, we see, you can see here the damage numbers. So he took about 15,200 damage and I took 8,100. So you can see the difference in the build. Like the damage reduction is really insane. So that was what I was talking about earlier with like your effective health, right? Because you don't just have 100,000 HP, you also take a lot less HP, which a lot less damage, which means in the return you basically have more health that you effectively can use before you die. So this is a really good showcase of that. And next up we have a clip of Leo running Glass Cannon. We wanted to test a very specific interaction. So for the people who don't know what a Glass Cannon is, it's a sigil. Glass Cannon boosts your damage cap by 30%. But if you get hit by an attack, you will get inflicted with this dizzy status. So basically every time you would be getting hit, you would receive a stun. And now in this clip here, we will see that I am substituting him. And that means I'm taking his hit. And we will see that not only does he not get inflicted with dizzy, but at the same time he will not get inflicted with dark flame. So please, up here, watch the buff icons and you will see as Bahamut attacks us with the ring attack, Leo will not take damage, he will not get stunned, and he will not get inflicted with Dark Flame. But when Leo gets hit, I actually get inflicted with Dark Flame, but not the dizzy status. And then when I get hit from Bahamut's attack, it actually procs the Dark Flame effect on me, dealing extra damage. So that's why you will see that I take like a huge chunk of damage suddenly. So for the people who don't know what Dark Flame is, basically it's a status effect that when you get hit by something, it applies to you and it does nothing at that point. But if you were to get inflicted with Dark Flame again, you will take a huge amount of damage. And that's why I took so much damage from when I got hit after Leo. So he was positioned closer to the hit, so he takes it first. It got transferred to me. I got the Dark Flame stack from him. And then, because I got hit later, the Dark Flame got procced on me because I purposely took the second hit. So here we have another example. In this clip, Leo already has Dark Flame on him, and I'm covering him with Substitute, but we're not using any other buffs. And now we will see here what happens. So Leo's Dark Flame actually not get procced on him, but it seems like I took extra damage, because if you look, we have 3 damage numbers here: 6,500, 16,700, and 30,000. And now I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this clip, it might have functioned a little bit funny, because I actually did not have Dark Flame, right? But there are 3 damage numbers, and both of us only got hit once. So the 6,500 is what I should have taken from the hit myself. The 16,000 is what he took from the hit, and I believe the 30,000 damage is what the damage that I took would have taken from Dark Flame. It seems like really inconsistent, because if you look here, I'm actually full HP, and if you calculate these damage numbers together, I only took about 20% of my HP. So this should have been like 40,000 alone, easily, right? But I took much less damage than it displays here, so that's a really weird thing. I cannot quite explain things. Like, it seems like some things are a little bit funny when it comes to substituting. I just wanted to showcase that. Here I want to just show a quick example about what I meant earlier, that it can be really difficult with this build to deal with certain DPS mechanics, because personal DPS is so low that you are going to need to have your team do these things. So as we will see here, my personal DPS is really low, right? So you will see it takes me actually forever to clear DPS check mechanics. So this is a really big downside from the build. And you have to keep this in mind. And with that being said, I will let this here play as I keep talking, because this is pretty much it. If you want to see more of how the build is played, feel free to watch the live stream that I did, the 500 sub live stream. I played a bit a lot in this. Some of the footage is from there. I played a lot of matches there with Cheetah. I also did like multi-boss fight tanking. It is very difficult to convey all the different things that go into playing something like this, because there's so many facets of like things that you have to think of that you usually don't have to think of, right? Like, your awareness has to be way higher. You have to think about all of your party members. You have to kind of anticipate, like, with what mechanics would they struggle, how much damage should I do, like how much time do I have to build up arts level to get to my next substitute. Am I able to use substitute for this mechanic, or do I have to save it for later when a harder mechanic might appear, because we're doing quite a lot of DPS, stuff like that, right? Then there's also things like certain mechanics are just really hard to substitute, because they don't give you much opportunity to perfect dodge. So then maybe you have to adjust your substitute there with trying to gather your team around, or at least catching off many of them as possible with a phalanx. Because when you phalanx them and then substitute them, so instead of taking the full damage from them, right, when they have like your damage cut from phalanx, you will basically take the reduced damage that they will take as well. So if they have like 70% damage cut from phalanx, and the hit would do like 30,000 damage, they would only take 10,000, right? And so the 10,000 would be directed to you. On the other hand, like if you only have phalanx, but you have substituted them and they take the hit, the defenses that you have do not matter in that sense. So you would still take the full 30,000 damage, because you take their damage. It's not redirected to you and then it goes through your defense calculation. It works with their defense calculation. So there's also something you have to keep in mind. And there's like a lot of really minor things that you have to learn. There's also things like, here, this is really good example. Phases like these where there's like these lasting AoEs on the ground here in the middle and on the outside. This is stuff that you cannot perfect dodge as example, right? And that is also stuff that you cannot cover. So if you cover them with substitute and they walk into this, they will take the damage. So they will still die to this when they walk into it. So substitute, as a general rule of thumb, I would say from my experience, it works against anything that can be dodged. But this is if it's like a stage hazard, like if you have like a flame puddle on the ground that inflicts burn, or something like here, I don't know what to describe this, but just like an AoE damaging zone that you cannot like dodge and it's like persistent. You have to be very careful with that because this will just chew through the cover and still hit them, so they can die to that. So keep that in mind, like cover doesn't make everyone perfectly unkillable. There are certain things that will go for it, but these things are very few, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And with that being said, I think this video, it has been pretty long. I'm so sorry about it. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but there's just a lot to unpack here, and if you wanted to go into every minute detail, this video could go on for hours probably, because there's a lot of like nuanced stuff that you have to understand when playing this build and to try to optimize it in terms of like gameplay, because this plays very, very differently than any other build in my opinion. And I think that's what makes this really fun. So this is generally like probably the most fun playstyle that I have found so far in this game. And sadly, it is really high requirement. So if you do not have the gear and the sigils and the weapon that I have, you will feel probably very miserable playing this, because you will do absolutely zero damage, like even less than I do here, while having less defensive stats. And it is really something you sadly you cannot just like make it in random and try it out, you know. Like if you want to play this build, you really have to commit to building it up properly, because without all the little pieces in place, this build is not very good. And of course, it's arguably not very good in general, because you could just say everyone could just play perfectly and we all play for DPS, right? And that would be just the end of it, and you know, like you clear fights fast. And but for me, as I said, like I play games for fun, and I do not enjoy playing DPS. And who knows, maybe in future content stuff can change where tanks and supports become more meaningful. And if not, I will still play them because I just enjoy playing that way. So if that's something, you know, that you just disagree with, that's fine. I'm not gonna force you to think that this build is good. Like, I'm not claiming this to be meta or anything. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, that's it from me. I wish you all a wonderful day. Bye bye.